Imagine dropping like 85 grand on a luxury vehicle.
Which is a lot of money.
Right. A ton of money. And then the company explicitly refuses your request to customize it.
Yeah, they just tell you no.
Exactly. Or picture an engineering team deciding to literally melt down scrap metal in the back of an active multi-billion-dollar auto factory.
Just to prove a point to their bosses.
Yeah, exactly. Today, we're looking at the invisible rules that dictate, how we work, how we buy things, and really how we solve problems.
Because we navigate these unwritten laws every single day. I mean, we format documents a certain way. We sit through these endless weekly meetings.
Oh, the meetings.
Right, and we fill out tedious forms mostly because, well, someone years ago just decided that was the protocol.
Yeah, and the longer a rule has been in place, the more it masquerades as this, unbreakable law of the universe.
It's just accepted as fact.
Which brings us to the entire mission of today's deep dive. We are uncovering the secrets of exponential growth by unpacking this framework known simply as the algorithm.
The algorithm.
Yeah. Our source material today is an amazing insider account from Jon McNeill. He was the president of Tesla, and he documented this hypergrowth formula that basically transformed companies like Tesla, obviously, but also SpaceX and Lululemon.
And it's worth stating right up front that while these principles were forged inside these massive tech and auto giants, we're not doing a deep dive into Elon Musk's personal life here.
Right, definitely not.
And we certainly aren't here to teach you rocket science.
No rocket science today. We are here for a highly practical blueprint. It's a 5-step framework that you can actually apply to your own business, your own team, or honestly, just your daily routines.
Yeah, everyday life.
Today, we're focusing entirely on the first two, most foundational steps of this algorithm. Number one, questioning every requirement. And number two, deleting every possible step.
Because true innovation, it rarely starts with some flashy new gadget. It almost always hides behind the really mundane processes that we just accept as, the way it's always been done. To understand how to dismantle those processes, we really have to look at where McNeill actually developed this mindset. Long before he ever walked onto some futuristic factory floor, he was this young consultant.
Okay.
Working alongside Dave Goldberg in, of all places, meatpacking plants across the Great Plains.
Wait, really? Meatpacking? That feels like the furthest possible thing from building sleek electric vehicles.
I know, but what's fascinating here is that a meatpacking plant is an incredibly unforgiving environment to study efficiency.
I can imagine.
You're dealing with organic material, heavy machinery, and just massive, massive scale. That is where McNeill learned the Toyota production system.
Ah, okay. The famous Toyota method.
Exactly. Instead of looking at a business as just a series of abstract spreadsheets, the Toyota method forces you to go to the actual floor. You have to watch the physical flow of the work.
You actually watch people doing the job.
Right. You learn to systematically optimize a process by finding the exact physical point where things just pile up.
So fast forward a few years from the meatpacking plants, and McNeill gets introduced to Elon Musk by Sheryl Sandberg.
Right. Big introduction.
Huge. And Musk explicitly states he does not want to hire, quote, a big company car guy.
He wanted an outsider.
Yeah, he's looking for a fellow entrepreneur, someone who has stared down the barrel of running out of cash. Because, that kind of pressure forces you to abandon all the corporate theater and just move fast.
You don't have time for the theater.
Exactly. So instead of a standard interview, Musk throws McNeill into this live case study about a manufacturing delay.
And McNeill immediately falls back on that meatpacking experience. He didn't ask for some slick PowerPoint deck.
No.
He asked where on the floor are the unused parts piling up.
He was literally looking for the physical backup.
Exactly. He was applying the core principle of Eli Goldratt's famous book, The Goal.
Right, the goal.
Goldratt popularized this concept of the constraint. It's the mathematical reality that a complex system can never, ever move faster than its absolute slowest step.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second.
Yeah.
Because the way I picture it is like a massive, complex plumbing system in a skyscraper.
Okay, I like that.
You can install the widest, most expensive state-of-the-art pipes in the world on 90% of the floors. But if there's one tiny clogged valve in the basement, the water pressure for the entire building just drops to a trickle.
It ruins the whole system.
Right. And spending millions to upgrade all the other pipes doesn't help at all. You have to find that specific basement valve.
And finding that valve is exactly what McNeill did with Tesla's sales numbers. And this was before he even officially accepted the job.
Wait, really? Before he worked there?
Yeah. The company had a major problem. They had these test drives, but they were not converting into actual purchases.
People were driving but not buying.
Exactly. So rather than analyzing some marketing report, McNeill just went undercover. He visited 8 different stores, used a fake email address, took test drives, and then he just waited.
And let me guess, nobody followed up with him. Wow. So he digs into the actual system data and discovers this massive graveyard of 5,000 potential customers who took a test drive and literally never got a single callback.
5,000 leads just sitting there.
Yeah, because he had to look at the mechanism driving the behavior. The salespeople were incentivized entirely on lead generation.
Oh, of course.
Right. They got paid to get bodies in the door, but they received 0 commission on the actual final sale of the car.
So why would they bother calling them back?
Exactly. So McNeill halted all new test drives immediately. He said, no more test drives until the sales team calls those 5,000 old leads.
And what happened?
They'll spiked instantly.
See, he found the constraint in the system. He realized the rules governing the employee incentives were actively blocking the revenue.
Yeah.
But identifying the bottleneck, honestly, that's the easy part. Fixing it usually requires you to break an established rule. Which leads us directly into step 1 of the algorithm. Question every requirement.
Question every requirement. Which brings us to the ultimate constraint that Tesla faced back then. International expansion into China.
Oh, yeah. This is a big one.
To survive as a global automaker, they had to manufacture locally in China. But the Chinese government had a very strict requirement for foreign companies. To build a plant there, you had to surrender equity to a local partner or the government.
And Apple, GM, Microsoft, every titan of global industry accepted this as an absolute unbreakable rule of doing business in that market.
Just the cost of doing business.
Right. But the algorithm dictates that a requirement forcing you to surrender your profit margins and your IP. You can't just accept that. So McNeill and his team spent 14 months negotiating.
14 months.
Just looking for a way to rewrite that rule.
They had to figure out what China actually wanted. So they analyzed China's 5-year economic plan, which heavily prioritized massive job growth and a transition to clean energy.
They found their leverage.
Exactly. Instead of giving up equity, they offered to build an unprecedented local supply chain, something that would elevate the skill level of thousands of local workers and massively advance the country's clean energy goals.
And the trade-off worked.
It actually worked.
They secured Gigafactory Shanghai as the first 100% foreign-owned auto plant in the country. They literally shattered an international trade rule that the entire rest of the world considered carved in stone.
It's amazing. And we can take this exact same mentality from international trade down to the actual literal factory floor. Because this rule-breaking mentality, it applies everywhere.
Absolutely everywhere.
Like at their Fremont factory, the body shop was a disaster. There were 300 individual metal parts being welded together by these armies of incredibly expensive, highly complex robots.
Which is a nightmare for quality control.
Chronic delays, endless issues. So the head of engineering, this guy Doug Field, he walks into a meeting holding a tiny die-cast Matchbox toy car.
I love this story.
He flips the toy over and points out that the entire body of the toy was cast in just 2 pieces of metal. Liquid metal was simply injected into a mold. And he asked, why can't we just do that with a full-size car?
Okay, let's unpack this, because I actually have to push back here on behalf of the listener for a second.
Okay, push back.
The auto industry wasn't just being unimaginative, right? Like, pouring massive amounts of molten aluminum is objectively terrifyingly dangerous.
It's literal molten metal.
Yeah. There are issues with gas trapping, there's porosity in the metal, and a very real risk of deadly explosions if a giant mold cracks under all that pressure.
Sure.
So how are you supposed to know the difference between a rule that is based on the actual literal laws of physics versus a rule based on, well, we've just always done it this way?
That is such a good point. And that distinction, that is the beating heart of step 1, because the laws of physics are inflexible. You cannot negotiate with gravity or thermodynamics.
Right, you can't out-negotiate an explosion.
No, you can't. However, human beings frequently use physics as an excuse to avoid hard engineering problems. Doug Field didn't ignore the very real danger of explosions. He sought out new data. He looked entirely outside the automotive sector, and he studied the steel industry.
Okay.
Specifically, this company called Nucor. In the 1980s, Nucor figured out a way to pour liquid steel through water-cooled copper molds to continuously cast flat sheets. bypassing the older, slower methods.
So he looked for precedents in other fields.
Exactly. They took that inspiration and they started running extremely careful, small-scale experiments. They actually set up a small smelter in the back of the factory.
In the back of the factory?
Yeah, and they literally started melting down rejected aluminum wheel rims just to test their own casting theories.
That is wild.
And as they proved the safety and the viability of the chemistry, they slowly scaled the machines up. Eventually, they reduced that 300-part metal chassis down to just 3 parts.
300 down to 3.
Yeah. They essentially eliminated the need for a traditional body shop entirely, which gave them a 5 to 7 year technological jump on every other car manufacturer on Earth.
Because they looked at an absolute no, this dangerous, seemingly impossible industry standard, and they treated it as a yes that was just waiting for better data and, a willingness to test the boundaries.
And the cool thing is, this mindset is not reserved for billionaires building gigafactories. It applies to incredibly stubborn everyday problems, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Take distracted driving. Steve Jobs had actually explored whether the iPhone could be programmed to automatically disable text messaging when someone was driving.
Which would be a huge safety feature.
Huge. But the requirement that stopped him was GPS technology. GPS is only accurate to within about 30 feet. So the phone literally could not tell if it was sitting in the driver's cup holder or the passenger's cup holder.
Right. It doesn't know who is holding it.
Exactly. So the industry just deemed the problem unsolvable due to the technological limits of satellites.
But then a physicist from MIT named Brad Cordova applied step 1. He stopped looking at the static location of the phone, and instead, he analyzed the pathway the phone took to get into the vehicle.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah. Think about it. When a driver gets into a car, they have to physically slide their body behind a steering wheel. That movement has a totally distinct kinetic signature compared to a passenger just sitting down.
Right.
Cordova used the phone's internal motion sensors, the accelerometers and the gyroscopes, to recognize that specific sliding motion.
Wow.
And Progressive Insurance actually adopted this technology. They bypassed a massive satellite constraint simply by asking a totally different question about the local environment.
And we see this exact same principle applied in the corporate sector, too. Specifically in the deeply, deeply bureaucratic world of cyber insurance.
Oh, this is a great example.
Yeah. So McNeill was sitting on the board of both Lululemon, the yoga apparel brand, and Lyft, the ride-sharing platform. And he realized they were both paying the exact same premium for their cyber insurance policies.
Which was how much?
$7 million.
Both of them.
Both of them. And why? Because the insurance industry was using this standardized 25-page PDF form to determine their risk. And that form was heavily weighted by total employee count.
Which completely ignores the actual mechanics of cyber risk. I mean, Lyft is a massive digital honeypot. It stores driver's licenses, bank accounts, real-time location data. It is a constant target for international hackers.
Right. It's a huge target.
But Lululemon, conversely, doesn't even hold credit card data on its own servers. It passes that information straight through to third-party processors like Stripe.
Exactly.
Yet, because of a lazy PDF checklist, the industry treated their risk profiles as identical.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The cyber insurance industry was basically acting like a Victorian doctor trying to diagnose a patient's internal organs without ever asking them to take their clothes off.
That's a great way to put it.
They were just looking at the outside of the company, checking boxes on a piece of paper. But to understand the actual risk, you have to get inside the patient.
And McNeill's venture team, DVX, realized this. So they built a product called Quark. Instead of asking some HR manager to check a box on a PDF claiming they have a firewall installed, Quark is a software agent.
It actually goes inside.
Yes. It piggybacks into a company's network through their managed service providers. Those are the external IT firms that manage networks for small and medium businesses.
Okay.
And within 30 minutes, Quark physically verifies if security measures, like multi-factor authentication, are actively running on the employees' computers.
So once Quark proved you could just bypass all that bureaucracy by looking at the internal data, it opened up this massive opportunity. Because if you can see the whole system clearly, you can start aggressively cutting the fat.
Which brings us directly to step 2 of the algorithm. Delete every possible step.
Delete every possible step. And this step requires a ruthless mindset.
Absolutely ruthless.
Back in 2015, Tesla was facing a severe cash crunch. Musk set this outrageous goal. He needed to grow digital vehicle sales by a factor of 20. Not 20%, 20 times.
That's insane.
It's insane. To achieve that kind of scale, you have to completely deconstruct the customer experience.
So they analyzed their web traffic to see who was actually configuring cars online, and the data revealed 5 distinct buyer profiles: tech, safety, performance, environment, and status.
Okay.
And the safety buyers, interestingly, were predominantly women, and they initially viewed the new autopilot feature as a danger, not a benefit.
That makes sense.
Yet the entire website was catered almost exclusively to performance buyers. It was just flashing horsepower stats and 0 to 60 times.
They weren't speaking to most of their audience.
Not at all. So they redesigned the digital experience to speak directly to the values of those specific buyer profiles. But the messaging wasn't actually the main bottleneck.
No. The critical constraint was the checkout process itself. It took 64 individual clicks for a customer to buy a car online.
64 clicks.
64. Because the company offered over 300,000 potential combinations of paint colors, seat materials, tire rims, and battery sizes.
That is way too many choices.
Way too many. McNeill brought in the research of Barry Schwartz, who wrote a book called The Paradox of Choice. Schwartz's work proves that when you overload a human brain with too many options, the cognitive load becomes so heavy that the consumer experiences decision fatigue.
And they just give up.
They literally abandon the purchase.
So McNeill proposed slashing the options down to just 2 core packages.
Just do.
And the engineering and design teams revolted. They argued that stripping away all that customization would make their luxury brand look like a mass-market Honda.
And honestly, I understand that pushback. If I am spending $85,000 on a premium product, don't I inherently want to dictate every single detail? Like, how does removing my agency benefit a luxury brand?
It seems counterintuitive, I know, but it aligns perfectly with the psychology of high-end consumerism.
Okay, how so?
Consider a truly elite Michelin-starred dining experience.
Sure.
They don't hand you a 10-page laminated diner menu with 500 different items. They hand you a single sheet of heavy paper with a highly curated tasting menu.
Oh, that's true.
You accept those severe limitations because you are paying for their expertise. You trust the chef to make the best decisions on your behalf.
Right. It's the difference between going to, like, a bespoke tailor who asks you to choose between 500 different thread counts versus buying into the Steve Jobs turtleneck philosophy.
Exactly.
Give me one perfect choice so I don't have to think about it. By shrinking the inventory to 2 curated packages, the required clicks dropped from 64 down to 30.
Wow.
It massively simplified their manufacturing supply chain, it improved their profit margins, and online sales spiked by 20%.
Because people weren't paralyzed by choice anymore.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Slashing the clicks in half was a massive victory, but they were still at 30 clicks.
And Musk wanted, what, 10?
Musk demanded they get the entire buying process down to 10 clicks. They had simplified the physical hardware choices as much as they could, so the only remaining place to cut was the bureaucracy.
The paperwork.
The paperwork. Those remaining 20-plus clicks were entirely tied up in finance, lease agreements, and just endless pages of legalese.
And Musk looked at that stack of paperwork and asked a really foundational question. The essence of a car loan is simply a promise to pay a specific amount of money every month. Why does it require dozens of pages of signatures?
Which is a great question.
Right. The internal assumption was that state and federal regulators mandated every single page. But when the team actually audited the documents, like line by line, they discovered almost none of it was legally required.
Really? None of it.
Almost none. It was what you call pro forma verbiage, basically institutional scar tissue. It was bloat added over decades by overly cautious bank lawyers who were just copy-pasting protective clauses from the 1950s to cover themselves.
It's exactly the same phenomenon as, like, formatting a document for a printer from 1998 just because nobody ever updated the manual.
Exactly. So an executive named Bill Donnelly took this information, and he actually hunted down 2 financial institutions, U.S. Bank and Ally Bank, that were finally willing to strip the bloat and offer a 1-paragraph auto loan.
Just 1 paragraph.
1 paragraph.
That is incredible. And then another executive, Z. Nielsen, he integrated the checkout system directly with Experian credit bureaus to pre-fill all the background data.
Oh, smart.
So the customer suddenly only had to provide their name and their driver's license. The software just populated everything else automatically.
It eliminates all those extra clicks.
Exactly. So what does this all mean? How does the listener take a story about billionaires fighting Wall Street banks and apply this step deletion concept to their Tuesday morning?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a mandate to relentlessly audit your own processes. It doesn't matter if you manage a bakery, run a graphic design firm, or if you're literally just trying to organize your household. Sit down and write out every single step of your core daily process. Take a red pen and circle only the steps that the customer actually pays for, or the steps that directly produce the final value.
Only the value-add steps.
Right. Everything else, the internal review meetings, the redundant status updates, the legacy paperwork, it is all ripe for deletion. You will be astounded by how much of your week is consumed by tasks that add zero actual value to the final product.
Circle what the customer actually pays for. That is your challenge for today. Look closely at your own life and your own workflow.
Find your bottlenecks.
Where are your 64-click processes? Where are you strictly adhering to a rule simply because, well, it's how we've always done it? Find your internal bottleneck, gather some new data, and see if you can cast the solution in one piece.
And as you go out and start eliminating that friction, there is one final, highly provocative thought from McNeill's account that you should really mull over.
Oh yeah, the aftermath.
Yeah. When Tesla finally succeeded in deleting all these steps, when they actually created this flawlessly optimized near one-click buying experience, the very next result was a massive statewide traffic jam.
A literal traffic jam.
A literal traffic jam. The northbound lanes of every major highway near their delivery centers were suddenly gridlocked with new cars.
Wow.
The ultimate irony of the algorithm is this. If you flawlessly execute these steps, if you truly eliminate the friction and achieve hypergrowth, your system will work so efficiently that you end up breaking the environment around you.
It works too well?
It works too well. If you succeed at the algorithm, your next biggest problem won't be a lack of demand. It will be figuring out how to survive the traffic jam of your own success.